Hey guys, what's going on? I have not opened a sealed magazine in a long time, and since I just finished up a gameplay video and I still have a little bit of energy left in the tank, I wanted to do another one here and open up a sealed video game magazine that is exactly 25 years old. This July 1997 issue of this magazine would have been on newsstands in mid to late June of 1997. This is the Ultra Game Players Mortal Mayhem. This is from July 1997. There is a disc here. There's a Fighters Mega Mix Mega Guide. There's some other cool stuff here that you can see on the back. Nonstop Nintendo Special MK Anthology movie. We'll talk about that disc shortly. But let's go ahead and let's open this up and let's see what's on the inside. I have this open just a little bit already so that I didn't have to fight with the scissors on camera. And that way I can keep the bag. So we'll take the disc out first before I get to the magazine. So this is the disc. Mortal Kombat exclusive movies of Mortal Kombat mythology, Sub-Zero. Perhaps my buddy Josh from Insert Coin fame would be interested in this. I don't have a CD-ROM to play this on. I don't think it would run on my machine anyway. There's other stuff on here too. Legacy of Kain for PC, FA-18 Hornet for the Mac. This disc is PC and Mac compatible. Oh, by the way, there is AOL software included for those of you who are interested. This runs Macromedia and QuickTime. And we actually have the America Online for 50 hours. You have the code there. Sniper Fours is the password for some reason. And you can see if you look there, hopefully it doesn't like zoom out too badly, but you have all the different channels and everything. And I loved AOL back in the day. Let's see what the disc looks like. So the disc, oh, that's kind of neat. So the disc does have, it looks like Sub-Zero on there. So that's pretty nifty, I think. And it is just a regular CD. Again, I don't know what's on here. I'd have to give it to someone and have them kind of figure it out because I don't have an old computer. Maybe Lazy Game Reviews. Maybe I should send this to him and see if he could make something of it. 170 megs of Star Fox 64 secrets and Fighters Mega Mix Boot Camp first M2 game footage. We have talked about M2 before. M2 never happened. That was canned before it wound up being a thing. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's take the magazine out of the bag and read this for the first time. And there's other stuff in here too. That's nice. Just give me 1 second. Got to open this just a little bit more than I thought I would have to. A little tight. There we go. Oh, there's extra stuff. That out. So what do we have? So the first thing we have is we have, oh boy, She'll Kick Your Ass at E3 and Beyond. This is a Dead or Alive mailing list opportunity, but you could kind of hang this up. There's like the mailing list thing. That's new. I might have to put this up somewhere. I did not expect that to be a thing. What else do we have? We have more stuff. We have a lot more stuff. Actually, not a lot more stuff. But we have Who Wants to Torture Their Enemies? Wild 9. So you can kind of look at yourself in the mirror. That's nifty. I like that. I might have to put that up too. And it's rating pending, by the way. So yeah. Who is that ugly guy? Yeah. And we have an Atomic Bomberman. Looks like a set of postcards for Atomic Bomberman. Bomberman of the Year Timer magazine. That's neat, and it's like that glossy finish. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Requires 32 cents. I think it requires a bit more than 32 cents now. So we've got those. And we also have this Fighters Mega Mix guide. It is a mini strategy guide here for Fighters Mega Mix. That's literally what it is for the Saturn. So if you had a Saturn back then, or if you have a Saturn now and you need the move lists for Fighters Megamix, it is right here. I do not have a Saturn. I have never played Fighters Megamix, so this does nothing for me, but that's okay. All right. So let's get to the actual magazine itself. So here it is. And when we open up the magazine, and I got to be careful because there's a bunch of these cards in here. That's the trick with opening these magazines, is sometimes there are just way too many cards. Put that over here. This is going to be fun to read. Because I just spotted one of the ads in here, and I cannot wait to get to it. So here it is. Once we open this up, the first thing that we see is an ad for Wild Arms. There it is. That is awesome. So Wild Arms hadn't come out yet or was on its way out. Unless you can unfold the mysteries of the wasteland, you're going down whether you're ready or not. And it just so happens this is one of the things I got for myself for my birthday this year from my friends down at Found Gaming in Lubbock, Texas. I know the person who started it. She's awesome. Helped to hook me up with this. I had a version of this, but it wasn't in the best of shape. This one is in much better shape. So that's awesome. So that's Wild Arms. Wild Arms got overlooked because of Final Fantasy VII and bunch of other games that came out in 1997, but really shouldn't be. And I believe that for the new PlayStation Plus system, where there are original PlayStation games that are playable, I think Wild Arms is one of them. And you should definitely check that out if you have the ability. Also have an ad here for Hexen, for the N64, no less. And then we get our list of stuff, and there is a lot of stuff. This magazine is pretty full for the time period. Cover story, and I'm not going to go over all the contents. And then we get to my favorite ad, just because I have two of these now. This is an ad for the GX TV. 21 watts of sound power, 740 miles an hour, aimed right at your eardrums. That is the best part of the TV, is not the picture. It is the sound. The sound kicks butt. It is awesome. You can actually see up here in the corner, you can actually see what the TV looks like when you swing the speakers open. And I've posted pictures of my GX TV on Twitter before, and I even posted a video to TikTok, so you've seen it. Awesome TV, and I'm glad that I have one that works. That is the first TV that I ever bought, by the way. I bought mine from Electronics Boutique at the Holyoke Mall at Ingleside. Bought it brand new for, I believe it was $300 at the time. And that's the TV I had to retire. It's actually over here in this corner. It's on the floor. I bought another TV from a really cool person just after or just before Thanksgiving last year. And that's the TV that I'm using for my retro setup in my living room, which, by the way, I have not spent nearly enough time using because I've just been so busy with work and other things. So the writers for the magazine, Frank O'Connor, Roger Burchill, Mike Salmon, who was pretty popular with Ultra Game Players at the time, Francesca Reyes, and Bill Donahue. It goes over what's on the disc, as it says on the disc. So for PC games, Meat Puppet, Air Warrior 2, IM-1A2 Abrams, and Legacy of Kain for PC. For Mac, FA-18 Hornet 3.0, Tomb of the Taskmaster, Odyssey, and The Zone. Also had video game movies for Broken Helix, Tale of the Sun, Namco Museum Volume 4. I can't believe we were already at Volume 4 at this point. Hexen 64, Star Fox 64, Peak Performance, International Superstar Soccer, Machine Hunter, Armored Core, Tobal number 2, which, by the way, never came out here. Steel Rain, Sonic Jam, Shining the Holy Ark, Marvel Superheroes, and Bottom of the Ninth. So that's really cool. I love the fact that these magazines had discs in them and an alternate form of media. I think that was a really nifty idea. What is this? This is the M2. So this blue thing that you see up here, the Panasonic reel, that's the talking about the M2 coming to town there. Finally, full details and software emerging from Matsushida's Super System. Yeah, that never happened. And that's unfortunate. It really doesn't say much, though. Doesn't talk much about this. Oh, the specs are here. So this is what the specs were. 2 times PowerPC 602 running at 66 megahertz. The video engine is a 340 by 240 through 640 by 480, so it ran up to 480p, I guess. Full color audio DSP was a 16-bit digital signal processor at 66 megahertz. Quad speed CD-ROM. Let's see, 8 megabits of SD-RAM, 64-bit bus. This is all stuff that Lazy Game Reviews probably could decipher better than I. Texture mapping, decal modulation blending, tiling, 16,000 to 128,000. Texture buffer built in. M2 changes its name. Matsushita announces a release date in Japan of late 97, mid 98 for the US. Price point announced in Japan, $300. No announcement about the US price. Basically, the bottom line is the M2 just never happened. The 3DO was unfortunately a disaster. It was too expensive and no one really cared. And by the time the M2 was going to come out, the PlayStation had already established itself as the market leader. The N64 was not doing too badly itself. The Saturn was already struggling. The M2 really would have had no shot. We do have images of 2 games, IMSA World Championship Racing and Power Crystal, which are over here. They're not all that impressive. Maybe they were for the time. I was sad that the M2 never made it because I actually had a 3DO for a time, but I just knew that that wasn't really going to be a thing. Intel and Microsoft enter the arcade fray. That's interesting. More black belt details talking about Sega's next system. Sega Saturn's successor looks like the Dream Console. Just last month, we revealed some of the information surrounding Sega's next system, the Black Belt. This month, information has come to light, which reveals some new details surrounding the secret system. While Sega is understood to be furious that news of its next system has leaked out, it still hasn't been able to plug those leaks. Boy, that sounds awfully familiar because we have lots of leaks today, don't we? Virtua Fighter 3 is one of the games that's announced. Of course, the Black Belt, I believe, wound up being the Dreamcast, which unfortunately did not have long. What else do we have in the news feed? So just like EGM, you have like a news feed down at the bottom here, which is like their rumor section. So I'll read some of these rumors here. Activision has announced plans to return to the flight sim market, courtesy of Screamin' Demons over Europe. Mindscape has undergone a transition by splitting its operations into 2 divisions, Mindscape Nevada and Mindscape Sunnyvale. Sunnyvale, of course, a big hotbed for video games. That's where Atari was for a while. In the week following the UK price cut to £129, Sony sold more than 50,000 PlayStations. Of course, price cuts are always going to generate sales for the most part, unless the system just wasn't doing well. GT Interactive in Europe has launched a new budget line of classic games called Replay. The games cost $15 to $25 and include such classics as Doom, Doom 2, Mortal Kombat 3, Heretic, and others. By this point, Mortal Kombat 3 was about a year and a half old, so it kind of makes sense to hit the budget line at that time. Looking at options, and yes, we do have the Gamecom, not the Game.com, the Gamecom, Tiger's handheld console, which really didn't wind up being much of a thing. We also have the PlayStation Glove, which I believe that Jim Caddick or Kadikarus had gone over in his recent PlayStation accessories video, which is an epic, and I recommend that you watch it. So that's pretty neat to see. What else do we have here for a news feed? Let's see. Nothing good. We're just going to keep moving. Oh, by the way, EB went into the internet. This is the ebworld.com. This was one step before EB wound up being sucked into the GameStop shenanigans. A War Gods ad. Remember War Gods? Yeah, I do too. Do I want to remember War Gods? Probably not, but I do remember it. And it makes sense to talk about War Gods because, again, get Mortal Kombat on the cover here, right? We have a few notes from the underground. Due to massive backlash from consumers regarding X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, LucasArts has reportedly been scrambling to put together a patch for the game. Complaints of poor internet support and lack of 3D acceleration in a variety of forums has sent LucasArts into a tizzy. The patch is expected to provide support for some 3D accelerators as well as expanding the number of players who can compete online at once. I believe, speaking of lazy game reviews, and I do bring up his name a lot because not only has he been fantastic on YouTube, but I believe he did a video on X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I think he made reference to this in that video. Saturn upgrade canned. According to sources close to the project, the Saturn upgrade that was promised over a year ago by Yu Suzuki for Virtua Fighter 3 has been canceled. Virtua Fighter 3 may be black belt only, and again, that would wind up being a Dreamcast thing, right? Tekken 3 for Nintendo 64. Yeah, we know where this rumor went. Nowhere. Recent rumors have indicated that Namco is considering bringing its latest arcade fighter to the Nintendo 64. I just want to show you just so you can see I'm not making it up. There it is. Tekken 3 for Nintendo 64. I'm not kidding. It really does say that. The event would be unprecedented given the animosity both companies, and especially Namco's Nakamura and Nintendo's Yamauchi, have had for one another since the mid-'80s. If Tekken does go to the N64, there would have to be a lower polygon count for the characters, but it would be possible to use many of the special Nintendo effects to make the game look better. Okay. Some sources have indicated that Namco is considering using the 64 Double D for the translation. Namco might never take a chance on such a new technology, however. Sony has publicly stated that it doesn't intend to release its next PlayStation until at least 1999. Sources have indicated that its PlayStation 2 design has been complete for the last 6 months. Rumor has it that NEC's Power VR architecture is a frontrunner among the contenders vying for the opportunity to provide graphics subsystem for the hit. Activision is indicated as currently working on a number of titles for the N64. Okay. Due to efforts to cut additional costs, Acclaim Entertainment is said to be selling off one of its development subsidiaries. Acclaim currently owns Iguana, Probe, and Sculptured Software, any one of which could fetch a hefty price. And of course, we have an ad for Atomic Bomberman. Blow me. I'm not going to say anything else. I've already had an ad that says she'll kick your ass on it, and now blow me. So yeah, that's not great for family viewing. And now Mortal Kombat Nation, or Mortal Combination. So we're talking Mortal Kombat 4, of course. A divisive game. I gotta be honest, I didn't hate it. I actually enjoyed it. And when I started working for Funcoland in the fall of '98, it's one of the first games that I bought. I bought that, I bought F-Zero X, and I bought NFL Blitz. I am a terrible Mortal Kombat player. Yeah, I know I have the shirt on. I've always been a fan of the lore and of the characters and of the way that it plays. But any fighting game that has a block button, I really struggle with. And even playing, I was just playing a Generation 7 version of Mortal Kombat, the reboot for the Xbox 360, and just getting used to the block button is just something I am struggling mightily with. There's an interview with John Tobias here. Let's see what this says. Mythology's debuting on the PlayStation is a first for the Mortal Kombat series. Do you see this as a trend for the future? We work for Midway Home Entertainment and will do anything they ask of us, Tobias says. But it's most likely that there are games that will continue to come out in arcades first. It's just that Mythology's lent itself to the home console market. I was working with the console hardware when you're used to the open-ended arcade architecture. It definitely puts limits on what you can do, said Tobias. But Mythology is the type of game that relies on story and gameplay more than processing power. Still, we're managing to get a lot of performance out of the PlayStation. Just check out the screenshots and see the crisp graphics. Question is, this is the first time you and Ed have not worked together on a Mortal Kombat game. Are you still involved in each other's projects? Tobias answers, definitely. Ed and I are constantly talking with each other about each of our games, making sure the stories are in line. He's been a big help with the fighting and mythologies, and I'm constantly looking over his shoulder checking Mortal Kombat 4. Why did you take Mortal Kombat into an action-adventure game? Or why'd you decide to? Ed and I are constantly talking with each other about our game. They actually printed the same answer twice. That makes no sense. The story of Mortal Kombat is constantly evolving and really lends itself to this type of game. We think the Mortal Kombat story can be taken much further than just a fighting game. How much further can the Mortal Kombat games go on? Remember, this is 1997. We're still pressuring Ed Boon in NetherRealm Studios to make new Mortal Kombat games here in 2022, so take that for what it's worth. Tobias says, I don't see any end to Mortal Kombat in the near future. As long as we keep making quality games and the consumers want more, we're willing to give it to them. As I said earlier, there's a lot more we can do. So that's kind of neat. I love these. There's more here. I'm not going to read all of it. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. There is a Mortal contest in here where you could win a Mortal Kombat 4 arcade machine. And there are some screenshots for Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero here as well. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero tends to get picked on a lot online. I was just watching recently a Matt McMuscles video. By the way, I cannot recommend his channel enough. His What Happened series, talking about game development and games that just go wrong in development, is fantastic. And I just happen to be watching a video about that, so that's kind of timely. But I think the idea was kind of neat, and I think they really fleshed out the idea when Shaolin Monks came into being for the PS2 and Xbox for the 6th generation of consoles. But I do like the idea of just retelling the lore and making it an action RPG-ish kind of thing. The death traps were kind of unfortunate, and I definitely get why YouTubers kind of give the game a hard time for that. Behind the scenes for Crash Bandicoot 2, there's an interview with Mark Cerny, and I'm not going to go into all of these questions with Mark. Just kind of neat to see another interview with Mark Cerny. He's been around video games for a long time, and again, he's still got his hands dirty in 2022, so 25 years later, and obviously even longer than that because Mark's history goes back even further. It's just really neat to see him getting that time and attention like this, in my opinion. We have an ad for Triple Play 98 here, which I think was a step down from Triple Play 97, but that's just me. A 400-foot home run is the polite way of telling 50,000 streaming fans to sit down and shut up. Okay. An ad for Dynasty Warriors. Back when Dynasty Warriors was a fighting game and not a hack and slash action game that had a massive scale. That didn't happen until Dynasty Warriors 2 for the PlayStation 2. We have the ad for Clay Fighter 63 1/3, which is obviously poking fun at Mortal Kombat. Right down to like the flames and the question marks and the logo down the bottom. Got preview here for Extreme G, which wanted to be its own Wipeout clone. I prefer Wipeout to Extreme G, but that's me. Blasto, also known as Captain Blasto and Formula 197, as well as an ad for Codename Tenka. Gotta get my fingers out of the way. Blasto, by the way, got the cover for Next Generation for July 97, and I'll do that in another video. Previews for Fighting Force, Parappa the Rapper, and Grand Tour Racing. Fighting Force and Parappa the Rapper, I believe, were on the first official PlayStation magazine demo disc. I played the heck out of those, and I still own both games. Fighting Force, I believe, if I remember the story right, was actually going to be Streets of Rage 4, but then Sega kind of backed out, which is too bad. I don't think Fighting Force is a bad game, by the way. I think it might be a little bland or even average, but I don't think it's a bad game. That's just my opinion. Sonic Jam, TNN Motorsports Hardcore 2, and we have a sideways ad for Tecmo, including Tecmo's Deception, which does not get nearly the love that I think it deserves. Gex Enter the Gecko and San Francisco Rush. Man, I love Gex. I really do hope that Gex comes back. San Francisco Rush, I think, was a little bit better on the N64 than the PlayStation. The PlayStation version definitely runs rough. But Enter the Gecko, especially on the PlayStation, is, at least in my opinion, a lot of fun to play. Felony 1179, also called Runabout, I believe, and Armored Core. Oh boy, From Software. We got those. What else do we have? The Street Fighter Collection, Sky Target, and Carom Shot. What would Sky Target wind up being? That was a Sega. That was a Saturn game. Street Fighter Collection, I thought, was a really nifty thing. Although I have both of them. What is on here? Does it say? Super Street Fighter 2 is here, and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I guess? I forget what's on here. I'd have to play it again to check. And Carom Shot, which is a cool game. I don't know what that wound up being. I don't think that was the final title. Panzer Dragoon RPG, codenamed Azel, and Tonic Trouble. I believe that wound up being Panzer Dragoon Saga, I think, if I'm right. All you Saturn fans can tell me where I screwed up. Silicon Valley, which is a Nintendo 64 game. Steel Rain, G Police, and Cyberdeck. And Cyberdeck wound up getting its spelling changed. They dropped the C and they just called it Cyberdeck with a D-E-K, I think. Last Bronx, Mission Impossible, Resident Evil 2, and Ace Combat 2. I could go on and on about my love of Ace Combat 2. I love Ace Combat 2. And a little bit less so the Ace Combat Assault Horizon Legacy for the 3DS, which is basically a reimagining of Ace Combat 2. Ace Combat 2 is just legit awesome. And if you have an opportunity to play it, I highly recommend it. It really runs off of the original Air Combat, adds more missions, more voice sequences, tighter dogfighting, medals, and other factors that add to replay value. It is just it's a blast to play. Colony Wars, Shadow Master, and Nuclear Strike. Boy, Colony Wars was such a big deal. After Wing Commander 3 and 4, I was looking for another kind of like outer space shooter like that, and Colony Wars more than delivered. Pretty tough game, though. Not as difficult as its sequel, Colony Wars Vengeance, which I don't even want to get into how tough that is. Also, I don't think you know, or you might know, but the Colony Wars series wound up kind of sort of spinning off, where the developers of the Colony Wars games came up with a game called Blast Radius, Blast Radius, which is more arcade style, but still has similar graphics to Colony Wars and is a lot of fun to play if you can locate it. Nuclear Strike over here, which is the sequel of sorts to Soviet Strike, another game that I don't have a lot of experience with, but I do own it, and I want to get to it at some point. Excalibur 2555 AD, Nightmare Creatures, and Clock Tower. You know, I actually have a sealed copy of Excalibur 2555 AD. It's actually over there in the corner. I probably should open it and play it at some point, but I haven't had a chance to open it just yet. Really do need to get to that down the line. We all know the deal with Clock Tower, and Nightmare Creatures, of course, has its own reputation. One Freaking Fast, which I believe wound up being Running Wild, and Street Fighter EX Plus. Street Fighter EX 2 Plus now is worth a decent amount of money if you can find it. Freaking Fast or Running Wild, I thought was an interesting idea, but not a great game. Mage Slayer for the PC and Forsaken for the PlayStation and PC. I don't have really a lot to say about either of those, so I'm just going to keep going. Namco Museum Volume 5, which was the last of the Namco Museum games for the original PlayStation. I want to touch on those in just a second. Marvel Superheroes and Xevious 3D Plus G or 3D Plus. Xevious 3D G Plus does not or did not get a lot of attention because Xevious here in the US is just nobody cares. And not nobody, but very few people care about Xevious. I'm not even the biggest Xevious fan, but what Namco did with Xevious 3DG Plus is very similar to what they did with Starblade Alpha, where they added some extra modes to the game to kind of add a different experience, add some playability. It's worth a look if you like old school arcade games to see what Namco did by bringing it into the third generation. And as for Namco Museum 5, I love the original Namco Museum series, and I was always sad, and still am sad to this day, that Namco kind of left the museum part out of its Namco Museum titles for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox and GameCube, and focused more on just the arcade game. The original Namco Museum games for the PlayStation had things like you could look at the motherboard, you could read tips and tricks for the game, it kept adequate statistics for each game. You could hear sounds from each game. It was a literal museum, each of the different 5 different volumes. It was much more museum-oriented, the first game or two in the series. Once they got to 3, they streamlined it a little bit, but I always loved that idea. I would have liked to see more companies like Capcom and Konami and even Taito do more with their compilations where they told more about the history. The first Taito Legends game does a little bit of that, but Capcom's games kind of iffy when it came to the compilations. And now, of course, with Arcade Cabinet and now Arcade Stadium really don't give much history of the game at all, which I think is a disservice because you want to not only let the people play games, but you also want to teach them about where they came from. At least that's my opinion. More previews here for Real Fishing and for Croc. Again, another Kid Icarus special there with Croc. An ad for Battle Arena Toshinden 3, and then we have Tomb Raider 2 and X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Tomb Raider 2, let me give you a little hint. If you go to, if you look up a YouTube channel called Navigator, look up Gaming in the Clinton Years in the review for Tomb Raider 2. Just do yourself a favor and watch it, and then come back to me and leave a comment as to why I advise you do that. You'll know why. You'll understand why if you do that. Just trust me on that one. Previews for Spawn, for Mace, or Mace the Dark Age. And then we get into reviews. So we'll just take a look at the Spawn and Mace previews, and then we're going to get to the review section. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 reviews for this month. So we're just going to kind of go through them a little bit. Star Fox 64 is the lead review. It got an 8.1, as you can see. A lot of people love Star Fox 64. I just finished a playthrough of the original Star Fox for Super Nintendo and professed my love for that game in that gameplay video. I don't love Star Fox 64 as much as the original Star Fox, but I can definitely see why people do like it. It is more cinematic. There's more voice. Adding Rumble, using the Rumble pack, I think was a pretty nifty idea. And it felt more like a movie. I think the original Star Fox was a shooter that had some cinematography in it, but really didn't flesh things out like Star Fox 64 does. It feels like a film. It feels like a big budget film using Nintendo 64 graphics to the best of its ability. So I think that 8.1, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but that's me. So that's Star Fox 64, and it's 8.1. If you want me to go over all the scores, gets a 7 for graphics. I guess I can kind of go with that. A 7 for music, I think that's a little on the low side. An 8 for sound effects, really should be a 9 because of the voice. 8 for interaction, 9 for balance, 8 for depth, 9 for extras, 10 for presentation, and a 7 for innovation. A lot of scores, a lot of numbers here, but it is what it is. Tale of the Sun, which I believe is a PlayStation game, and there's also an ad for PSM Magazine here with their lid covers, which some people put on their PlayStations and then got all upset when they couldn't take them off. Namco Museum Volume 4 gets its review here, a 6.0. Namco Museum Volume 4 is probably the weakest of the 5, if you ask me. It's weird. It's also getting pretty pricey. That's the most expensive of the Namco Museum games that I own. That one and 2 are the 2 more expensive. X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter for the PC gets a 9.1. Despite the fact there were patches that were needed, still got a 9.1. You can see that down there in the corner. Force is strong with this one, but it does say that graphics are a problem. Graphics get an 8, but the music and sound effects get a 10. It sounds about right. Broken Helix for the PlayStation gets a 7.9. I have this game disc only. I don't know how to play it because I don't have the manual. I believe I gotta read here, see if I remember right. Yeah, Bruce Campbell is a lead voice in the game. I don't know a lot about it other than the fact that I own it. It does get a 10 for sound effects though, so there's that. So Broken Helix, and also an ad for Dark Rift. Then we get some small reviews here. Cave developed Peak Performance for the PlayStation? Is that right? Cave? Like the STG guys? Cave? Okay. Banshee 3 for the PC. IM1A2 Abrams for the PC. And Hexen for the N64 getting a 7.4. Wow, I did not know that Peak Performance was a Cave game. My mind is melted. I had no idea. I have to look at that. Then, just an amalgamation of different review scores. I don't know if there are any interesting ones on here. Let me take a look. Battle Arena Toshinden got a 7. Carnage Heart got an 8.6. Crypt Killer for the Saturn got a 6.3. Fighters Megamix got an 8.1. Let's see. Diablo for the PC got an 8.8. Mario Kart 64 got an 8.1. MDK for the PC got a 9.2. Rallycross for the PlayStation got an 8.1. Rage Racer got only a 7.9. Boy, that makes me very, very sad. Rage Racer is probably, on the PlayStation, my favorite of the Ridge Racer games, or of the Racer series. I know a lot of people will say Ridge Racer Type 4, and I get it. I totally understand. I don't necessarily disagree. But for me, Rage Racer, despite having a lesser of a color palette, and I know that's why a lot of people bag on it, it's very gray, it's very nondescript. But the way that they do the single-player campaign where you earn money and then you upgrade your vehicle rather than earning other cars, I like that aspect. It keeps me playing. So that's why I tend to prefer that one. I know it's sacrilege to say that because I know a lot of Ridge Racer Type 4 fans will kind of look at me with three heads. And again, I'm not saying that Ridge Racer Type 4 is bad at all. It is a fantastic game. I can totally see why people love it and would elevate it to the top of the list for their PlayStation favorite. But for me, Rage Racer just stands out. And again, it's part of that 1997 year. 1997 was just so bloody good when it came to video games, and we're celebrating that 25th anniversary of 1997 here in 2022. Wild Arms got a 9.3, and that's good to see. Wing Commander 4 got a 6. I don't know that I agree with that one. Turok got an 8.3. I could go on and on. Redneck Rampage. Oh, boy. And then we get some Wild Arms strategy, and I think this is a fold-out. Yeah, look at that. Wild Arms strategy, and it's like a bit of a fold-out. That's nice. I may use that. I really need to get back to playing that. Then, of course, like with any video game magazine, we get to the All Access, which are like your tips and tricks sections. And an ad for Sears. You could save $10 off Wild Arms. This was back when Sears sold video games, back when Sears was still a thing. It's kind of sad 25 years later to know that Sears is dead. But you see that Funtronics logo down there? Funtronics was Sears's video game store within a store. It would be where all their video games would be set up, and it was just like a completely different section. I believe it was located in most stores. It was behind where the boys' clothing was, because of course video games were for kids, right? But it was all video games there. They sold consoles, they sold games. Some of the games were more expensive than MSRP for whatever reason. But I did buy a few games from Sears, and I did like the Funtronics setup. So that's a look back at video game retail back then. Codes for Soviet Strike, Need for Speed 2, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, and a huge ad for Raystorm. Raystorm, published by Working Designs under their Spaz subsidiary. I just actually beat Raystorm for the first time, but Raystorm HD on the Xbox 360. I had never beaten it before. That's a fun game to play, and I need to get better at it. It's not perfect by any stretch, but I had a lot of fun playing it for sure. More codes for Test Drive Off-Road, VR Baseball 97 for whatever reason. Some codes for NBA Hang Time, which, by the way, and it's for the N64 version, which is the best home port, bar none. If you're looking to get the PlayStation port of NBA Hang Time, despite its high price tag, just don't. Just don't. If you can get the N64 version, which is less money, do that, because it's a better version of the game. There's also an ad here for Albert Odyssey, Legend of Eldine. More codes for Doom 64. Is super password. Enter W93M 7H20 BCY0 PSVB at the password screen for 100% health, 200% armor, all weapons, full ammo, the backpack, and levels 29 through 31 finished. You'll also end up on the last level. That's cool. And these ads. Win the ultimate gaming rig. Did anyone ever win these? Did they ever give these away? I'm kind of doubting it. I thought those were scams. I hope I'm wrong. I don't know. More strategies for Test Drive and Test Drive Off-Road. You like that kind of thing? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We have an ad for VR Baseball 97, and we have another fold-out, and this time, this fold-out is for Star Fox Strategy. I'm going to try and do this without wrecking the magazine here. It's Star Fox 64 Strategy, if you need it. And then we come to the part of the magazine that is my favorite because I am an unabashed sports video game fan, which right away removes a lot of my gamer cred because a lot of hardcore gamers, if someone says they like sports video games, they get shunned. But sports video games have been my thing. You know this if you watch the channel. So we're taking a look at MLB 98. There's a first look at NFL Game Day 98. This was the first year that Sony was taking their sports games to the third dimension using polygonal player models instead of sprites. So that was a big deal. Looking at Quarterback Club 98 and NCAA Football 98. So that's the beginning of the NCAA football series right there, which lasted until NCAA Football 14. So figure 16 years it wound up lasting. This was the first one. And it plays a lot like Madden 98 for better or for worse, depending on whether you like those games. Bottom of the ninth, 97 for the PlayStation, NBA 97 for the Saturn, International Superstar Soccer for the N64, All-Star Baseball 97 for the PlayStation and the Saturn. Bottom of the ninth was a preview. NBA Action 97 was a preview. International Superstar Soccer is a review, got a 9.5. Really should look into getting that for the 64. I don't own it. And All-Star Baseball 97 for the PlayStation and Saturn, getting itself a 6.9. Network connections. So now we're talking about letters to the editor. Okay, we'll read this one. It's titled Square Dance. When the hell is Square going to make games for the N64? Oh, you poor deluded fool. I love the Final Fantasy series, Secret of Mana, Mario RPG, and just about all the others. My second question is, are there any other RPGs in the works for the N64 other than Zelda? The answer, Square hasn't actually committed to any N64 games, but is believed that a Final Fantasy game will appear on the 64 Double D. No. Although Square is admitting nothing. One of the first N64 RPGs will be Mother 3. No. Known as Earthbound in the US, but you'll be pleased to hear that an N64 version of Super Mario RPG is under consideration at Nintendo. Of course, we know that would wind up going on to be known as Paper Mario instead, which is now available on Nintendo Switch Online using the expansion pack for N64. Me and my friends have been playing Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. We have 5 stars and all the guys, and we're at Land's End. We have nowhere to go. Can you tell me where to go? This is not a chain letter. Okay. One question. My moronic friend thinks that in Tomb Raider you can jump on the statue in Lara's house, dive into the pool, and she'll be naked. Is this true? I'm not going to read any more of these. Oh, maybe I will. Wait a minute. Here we go. I have noticed a problem in all of my N64 games. The graphics are just plain cheap. Sure, they look all silky smooth and pixel-free, but have you guys noticed how cheap it really is? Take Mario Kart 64, for instance. All the walls and even the ground look like cardboard. Another example is Star Wars. This game has every cheap-looking background and blurry effect you could ask for. I just hope Nintendo doesn't continue this cheap trend in their future games. Wow. I'm not writing in to talk about games. I just want everyone to know that I have a girlfriend. Sincerely, Brian M. from Lima, Ohio. Good for you, Brian. Thumbs up, my friend. My sister is a weirdo. WIERDO. When she plays SNES, she gets into it too much. Like in Mario, she jumps. When she jumps, she lifts the controller up. And when she gets mad, she swears at it like this. I pushed the right button. Blank to hell with you all. It drives me nuts. What should I do? Okay. We might be done here. Let's. My room is really warm. What should I do? I think this was the shtick with Ultra Game Players, was they try to be funny. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, I guess. Did you really break out of a mental hospital? Hey. The Net Rose. Net Eurose. Man, I always wanted to have one of those. And it's not because I wanted to do any game development, because I don't know what I'm doing, but just that black PlayStation, just such a good look. At least to me it does. And that is it. There is finally an ad for Magic the Battle Mage, or Magic the Gathering Battle Mage, on the back of the magazine. So that is a look at the July 1997 issue of Ultra Game Players. And again, this is the disc right here. I really need to see if I can figure out what is on here. Maybe I'll just have to send this to somebody and see if they can figure out whether there's anything on here that's of any use. Really should point this out to my buddy Josh and see if he can do anything with it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do like it, let me know in the comments. Maybe I can try and do some more magazine openings in the future. I do have some more back there that I need to open up, including another Next Generation magazine issue from 1995, another Next Gen magazine opening from July 97, which I really do want to do, and I have some more. But in the meantime, my friends, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I hope to do it again soon. See ya.